Hello, my fellow witches and wizards. So now we are going to step things up a notch and make pumpkin pasties. So I'll just show you once again all the ingredients that I have here. I have 1 can of pumpkin, that'd be 1 pound that you want. Sugar, we're going to need 3/4 cup of sugar. 1 can of evaporated milk, that's 1 2/3 cups. We're going to need a teaspoon of cinnamon, 2 large eggs, and half a teaspoon of salt. I also have some flour here and pie crust. This is going to be for the crust of the pastry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of flour on this cutting board here and flatten out the pie crust and you put the filling inside. But we're not going to do that just yet. We have to bake the pumpkin filling first. So I'm going to put these back in my refrigerator where they can stay nice and cool. And you can find all kinds of pumpkin pasty recipes on the Muggle internet. I'm using a recipe from a website called The Leaky Cauldron. I'll put a link in the description so you can look at it yourself. There are a couple of ingredients that I am not using that are in the recipe. That would be cloves, allspice, ginger. This might be a little controversial. Everyone makes their pumpkin pies and pumpkin treats differently, but my mother, who is a very skilled cook, taught me a little tip that if you leave some of those spices out, it actually makes the pumpkin pie, pumpkin pastries sweeter. But you might prefer spices in your pumpkin pies or pumpkin pasties, so that is entirely up to you. I've also got my lovely can opener and my measuring cup and measuring spoons, and I'm actually going to be using using another tool to make the crust, but I will save that for later. And here's the mixing bowl, and I'm going to use this baking pan for the filling. I have already preheated the oven to 425 degrees. The pumpkin will bake in there for about 15 minutes, and then we'll turn the temperature down, and it will bake for another 45 minutes or until a knife comes out clean, or a toothpick, whatever you want to use. So let's get started. So I'm going to start with the pumpkin. Now, I'm not great, Miss Lauren is not great at opening things with cans. That is one Muggle tool I have had a lot of issues with, so bear with me, friends. This might take me a minute. Oh, dear, see? You gotta really get a grip. Oh, the things these Muggles come up with. You gotta get a really good grip on the can. You can't really see what I'm doing, and trust me, you don't want to. Oh. Aha! I need a spoon to get some of this out. So some of the grown-ups in the audience who may be looking at the recipe online, you'll find this is very similar to making pumpkin pie. It's kind of on a smaller scale because you're putting the pie filling into little pastries, and they are delicious. So if you like pumpkin pie, this is a great snack to eat while you're watching the movies. Now I'm going to give myself a break with the can opener, and I'm going to pour 3/4 cup of sugar. I'm actually going to pour it over the bowl because I don't want any of it. I would rather if it spills out, at least it'll spill out into the batter. I don't want to spill sugar all over the floor because that attracts ants. And I do not want ants in my house. You might find that there's some lumps in your sugar, so I'm just kind of breaking it up. Nah, there could be a little bit more. Yeah, that's about right. So I'm going to pour the sugar in. Now I get to have fun with the can opener again. And get that evaporated milk open. Ha. Take that, Muggle can opener. Alright, now I'm going to take my gloves and crack my 2 eggs. And like I said in the cauldron cake video, some people don't care. Some people about getting egg on their hands, some people do. I am one of those people who does. And it says slightly beaten, so I'm going to stir them a little bit with a fork. Go. Half a teaspoon of salt. Not a lot, just a little, because we don't want to make it too salty. And a teaspoon of cinnamon. Ooh. I'm going to put the eggs back in the fridge. I'm going to take my nice big fork and stir everything around and around. And when you're mixing wet ingredients with dry ingredients, make sure to scrape along the bottom to make sure nothing sticks to it. Like, it could still kind of feel some of the sugar clumping up a little bit. You want a nice, smooth batter. Now, the recipe on Leaky Cauldron's website says it'll make about 36 pastries. I find it really depends on how big you make the pastries and how much pumpkin filling you have in them. I always seem to have like just so much pumpkin filling left over. So sometimes I just eat it right out of the pan. Like, I'll just kind of scoop some out and put it on my plate and eat some cool pumpkin filling. It tastes delicious. Alright, I think that's good enough. So I'm going to get my stuff out of the way here, and I am going to use this pan before, so it might be a little uneven, but I'm going to pour the pumpkin batter into the pan. Trying to make it nice and as even as possible. I'm going to kind of spread it around a little bit. I can't really hold it up to the camera, but you get the idea. So now I'm going to bake the pumpkin for 15 minutes at 425 degrees. And I've already preheated the oven, so I'm ready to go. This is the tricky part, making sure it doesn't spill all over the oven. So I'm going to set the timer for 15 minutes. Okay, so the timer has gone off, so I am now going to change the temperature to 350 degrees. And as you've probably noticed, the counter is all cleared off now. I like to usually take this time when something's baking to clear off the kitchen. It saves a little bit of time for later. And then when the pumpkin filling has cooled, we will start with the crust. So, see you in 45 minutes. Hey everybody, welcome back. So I have finished making the pumpkin filling, and it's a bit longer than 45 minutes because I needed to wait for it to completely cool. Now sometimes what I do is I will actually wrap this up and put it in the refrigerator overnight and then finish up the next day, but for time constraints, I'm just going to do it all in one night. Because it's fine to just have the pumpkin nice and cool. So I have my cutting board. What I'm going to do is take some flour and sprinkle it all over the board, so that way the pastry crust will not stick to the board. And I'm going to have to keep doing that periodically as I use up the pastry crust. Okay, so I bought Pillsbury pie crust, 9 inches. It comes with 2 pie crusts. I've already started to open one of them. And I bought 2 boxes of these, so let's see how many they make. And so you have to unroll the pie crust. And then use your rolling pin. Actually, I'm going to flip it around. Use your rolling pin to flatten it. And with this flattened pie crust, we are going to make our pastries. Now, you may be wondering, how do you get them to just the right size? Well, Nancy Alexander from the Rehoboth Beach Museum actually gave me a tip. She has been making our pumpkin pasties for us when we have Hogwarts camp in person. And she used a Funland cup. I found my Hufflepuff mug works great for this too. Or if you have a pastry cutter, that works. But you flip the mug over and you cut little circles in the pie crust, and it makes the perfect size for your pumpkin pasties. So there you go, about this size. Now I'm going to peel the dough away. So you may be wondering, Miss Lauren, what do we do with all the extra dough? Well, with the extra dough, what I do is I kind of roll it up in a ball and I flatten it again and make even more little pastry crusts. So I just keep reusing the dough and reusing the dough until I don't have enough to make another little crust. So I'll just put the crust aside for right now. And so next what you want to do is take a spoon. So I'm going to use a tablespoon and a little fork. And I'm going to scoop a spoonful of pumpkin and actually I could probably take some of this off. And so I'm trying to hold it up so you can see it. You see how it's in there? You're going to kind of fold the crust over, fold it in half. So it looks like this. And you're going to pinch the edges together to close it up. So pinch those edges. There it is. And then one last step, you want to take your fork and poke some holes in it, holes in the top. This kind of gives the pastry room to let the hot air escape when it's cooking. Another thing you can do is you could also sprinkle some cinnamon on top. I'm not going to do that right now, but that's another option. Just do a little bit of that's just my oven going off. Pay it no mind. Now I'm actually going to stop making the pastries just for a second. We're going to put the pastries on this cookie tray and we're going to grease it first so the pastries do not stick to the pan. Okay, so I have made 9 little pastries. I'm going to put them in the oven for about 10 minutes. The recipe says until they're about light golden brown. Doesn't take too long because you figured the pumpkin's already cooked.